Alrighty, today's agenda is going to include some follow-up from our September meeting. If you'll remember, we did a nice discussion at the end of the meeting, and you provided some great feedback and questions. And so we just have some follow-up from that. We have some updates to provide you today, as well as some information regarding SNAP hearings, because that was a request that came up last month. And then we will conclude with another partner discussion, so another opportunity to provide some feedback. Up first, we have Mayor Solar, who's going to give us some of that follow-up from the September meeting. So I'll hand it over to you, Mayora.
Thank you, Mish. Can you hear me?
I hear ya.
Okay. I'm going to try and I'm joined by phone and by computer. I've been having audio issues. Okay, here we go. So first I wanted to share in regards to the Consolidated Appropriations Act. So many of you who probably have been following different things happening at the federal level have known that there was a Consolidated Appropriations Act signed by the president. And so it's continued funding out through December 20th. So part of that continuation package is SNAP replacement. So we were watching that very, very carefully. SNAP replacements, for those of you who know, is not something that's in the Farm Bill. It was something that was added by recent federal actions. And so in order for that to continue for individuals who lose benefits based on theft, the federal government has to say that it's continued. So we were very afraid that they would end September 30th, but thankfully, after the CAA was signed, we now can replace SNAP benefits stolen due to theft, electronic theft, if the theft happened up to December 20th. We are waiting with bated breath and invite anyone who chooses to reach out to request that those replacements continue. Feel free to do as you would like to get that moved forward. We do know that it is a very expensive item, and so there are a number of individuals who do not support moving it forward. But on the other side of that expenditure is the amount of benefits that were stolen. So for the state of Oregon, for July alone, it was $750,000. So $750,000 of SNAP benefits were replaced. And if we were not able to replace that, that would be food that people had to go without for supporting themselves and their families. So we know that there are a lot of different agencies and states who have really rallied to highlight that message to lawmakers, and we invite you to do whatever you feel is best for your agency. And one thing that we are working on, there's a subgroup really working on SNAP replacement benefits. One thing that I have heard from FNS is they are concerned that as we are maybe able to invest in any other kind of technology, for example, TAP and chip cards, that the fraudsters will be able to meet us when we arrive there and still benefit. So what we're really trying to do is get that word out of the EBT Edge. In EBT Edge, individuals can lock card use in between grocery shopping trips or card use, so they can lock their card after they make a purchase and then unlock their card before they make their next purchase. They can also close out the ability for anyone to make expenditures out of state. So that's a great way that people can protect themselves. And they can also go onto that EBT Edge app or website to prevent and restrict any kind of online purchasing. So these are, many of you may know that many of the theft purchases are happening from out of state and they're happening online. So we have a group that's working at the rate of publication right now to get the word out, really of how people can use that tool to prevent theft. So I want to give you that really important update. And our other update is that all of our SNAP state plans have been accepted. So it's a huge body of work. It's the state plan of operations, which lists out all of the state options that we have. There is the nutrition education plan and the SNAP outreach plan. So that's a collaborative effort through Office of Payment and Recovery, our SNAP policy analysts, our SNAP Ed team, our SNAP Nutrition team, and our SNAP Outreach team. So it's a huge, as well as I believe our DSNAP expert. It's a huge volume of work, and thankfully we've gotten all of those approved, I believe, just last week. So we, because why finish something without starting a new thing? Because the fiscal year just started October 1st for the feds. We will begin looking at our next federal fiscal year. And if you are involved in SNAP outreach, especially, we'll be reaching out to begin some of those processes for our next state plan and our next fiscal year. Are there any questions on those follow-ups? I should probably open the chat so I can see if anything is written. Okay, seeing none.
I don't see any questions so far in chat anyway.
Okay, I'll call it good. If you have any latent realizations or questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll address them.
Thank you, Mayora. Susie, if you skip ahead just a little bit, there is a slide that Mayora didn't see as she was going over her updates. So go ahead, next slide, please. To the table. Yeah, the next one after that. There we go. So there was a request at our meeting last month on some data from SNAP replacement. So we don't have a lot of time to really dig into this, but did want to make sure that you had seen that we did provide that. It was included in the minutes from last month, but we also put it into today's PowerPoint so that you can have a chance to kind of look at that and think about it a bit. So this will go out, of course, with our follow-up next week when we get the minutes out. But there's some data there for you to kind of take a look at around the SNAP replacement. All right. So we have some updates for you. One of the requests we had was to learn more about how summer EBT went in its first year of rollout. So we have Catherine here to talk to us about that and give us a little initial update. Catherine.
Yes, thank you so much, Misha, for inviting me. And I do have a couple slides. Let me see if I can, let me see if I can request to share. Okay, let's see. There we are. Okay, and Misha, does that look right? Can you see a slide that says Oregon Summer EBT 2024?
I do see it. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. So thank you again for having me. Just wanted to give a couple updates. So this year was the first official rollout of the permanent food program summer EBT in Oregon. Automatically eligible families received their allotment of that $120 to an EBT card on June 28th. And then the applications were open just after that, July 1st until September 30th this year for other families to apply for the benefit. They were issued this year to over 361,000 children across Oregon. Our goal was 350,000, so it was a big celebration once we got over the 350 mark. And that equates to over 43 million in additional grocery benefits for Oregon families in 2024. Let's go here. Okay. So of the folks who applied, we had just about 17,500 applications received, most through the online application, which definitely tells us a lot about where technology is going. It's still about 244 that came in through paper applications. So we're looking into that as far as, this year with a quick rollout. The online application was only available in English and Spanish, whereas we had 10 languages for the paper application. So certainly for 2025, an enhancement will be that online application in all 10 most frequently commonly spoken languages in Oregon. So it'll be curious to see how those numbers may shift year to year. And because our program was extended, FNS allowed us to extend the application deadline from September 2nd to September 30th. We are still in the process of still pulling together those final program numbers. So this is a brief update with a longer one to come. I think, Misha, we're planning in January or so to give more of the full program rollout and wrap up on numbers there. But some key messages we wanted to share that are going out to families this month, because summer EBT benefits do expire after 122 days for the initial benefit group in end of June. That expiration is now hitting next week. So making sure that folks know to use their benefits if they still have them before they expire. They can reach out to us still through our summer EBT call line if they have questions or need a card reissued. And then we're starting to sprinkle in some messaging for 2025 around whether a family needs to reapply, and some messaging about when they can expect to hear from us in early 2025 about the program launching in the later spring, earlier summer, earlier than last year with a longer timeline this year to prepare, but before school goes out, getting those benefits to folks for 2025. That is what I had to share, and if there are any questions for me. Now I'm not seeing the chat on my end here.
So there is a question, but I think it may be from Mayora. Mayora, there was a question about in the replacement benefit numbers that you provided. There was a jump in July, and Annie was wondering if that was because there were summer EBT benefits included in that replacement number. Is that something that you know?
We don't know that right now. We can definitely look into that. What we're finding is that different groups and areas just happen to be targeted at different times, but we are looking at patterns. We've also looked at for TANF theft, if when individuals get those one-time non-recurrent benefit issuances, if there's a pattern of increased theft at that time. So that might have been that there were more benefits to steal at that time also, because there was larger balances for individuals. So it might have been more of a direct result of summer EBT benefits being issued. But I can definitely see if the staff, I'm also not sure if when we're looking at that list, if it actually includes summer EBT benefits at all. So I will definitely, we will add that to our follow-up question for next meeting.
Thank you, Mayora. Any other summer EBT questions that we have for Catherine, or I think we had another member of summer EBT staff join us as well.
And we have a November newsletter coming out. It'll be sent through to this group with some more updated information, those numbers, and then again, that plan in January to be back to give more 2024 summer EBT by the numbers and go into what we're looking forward to and recommendations for 2025. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Catherine. And will you get those slides to me so we can include them?
You got it. Yep.
Thank you. All right, and hopefully, Catherine, you see the wonderful feedback in chat there from Beth. All right, our next update, summer restaurant meals program. We have Tracy here to talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, just wanted to share a announcement or recruitment, I guess is what you want to call it. The restaurant meal program, as shared last month, we have developed a task force and we are still looking for participants on our task force. And that can be individuals who have experience working with individuals who would be eligible for this program, or more specifically, individuals who have lived experience that are either elderly, disabled, houseless individual, or houseless individuals. I'm going to drop some links into the chat for the link to the application. If you have individuals who are interested in it or you have questions, you can let me know. And I also probably will, Misha, I'll probably send you a little announcement that we can put in the minutes as well, just so that they can see kind of what we've done. We're just trying to get as many participants as we can at this point.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tracy. And I see Tracy did get those links in there. So if you are interested, or you know somebody who's interested, that would be wonderful. I know particularly they're definitely looking for folks with lived experience to join that task force. So if you can help get that information out, so we can be sure to include those folks in our task force, that would be wonderful. Catherine, there was a question that popped into chat on summer EBT. Okay, you got that in chat. Thank you. All right. Any questions for Tracy around the task force or the restaurant meals program that you'd like to ask? All right. Great. So I don't know if we have any SNAP program updates, but wanted to make sure that we had that on the slideshow here. Is there anybody from the SNAP team that was hoping to provide an update at this time? All right. Looks like things are running smooth and steady there, which is wonderful. So I'm going to go ahead and call Mayora back, and she's going to talk with you about SNAP hearings and help you understand that process better. So Mayora.
Hello, hello. So I am going to share, and I will let you know. I have not had time to take this old PowerPoint and put it onto the new ODHS PowerPoint template. So what I'll do before this is shared out is make sure that this is transferred out to the template. This was information taken from, so my background, I will just share with everybody. I have been with ODHS for about 20 years now. Started with child welfare when I was 20 and moved over to self-sufficiency a bit after that. So I have been an eligibility worker, and then following that, I was a hearings representative for a number of years, and then a SNAP policy analyst. Following that, I wrote the rules and filed and consulted for hearings for Chapter 461 programs, including SNAP, and then began in my current role in January. So what I've done is taken a training that we created for our lead workers in regards to hearing request and made it hopefully relevant to all of you. I do want to share a couple things. So it's really important, and I try to reiterate this in the training, that this is only for SNAP. Different programs have different hearing request requirements. So this is only in regards to SNAP hearings. There are some programs where you are required to fill out and sign the hearing request form. SNAP is not one of those. So I just want to make really, really clear that this is focusing on one program. And if you do have questions about any of the other ODHS, OHA, or DELC program hearing requirements, please connect with that program so that you can get accurate information. So I am going to, let's see. Okay, can everyone see the slideshow?
I see it.
Okay, sweet. I'll try to remember how to, I think I'll just hit the right. So I do want to make really clear again, this is just about the SNAP program, and this is just in regards to administrative hearing requests. So this does not cover intentional program violation hearings. That is because for an intentional program violation, an individual cannot request a hearing. The department initiates that hearing. So important distinction. There has been a request by Beth Englander for there to be an IPV training. And so once we reach out to Office of Payment and Recovery to facilitate when that will happen, we will make sure that they cover the IPV hearings. But just to be really aware, this is separate from IPVs. So what's a hearing request? It's a chance to speak to somebody else. So it's someone else who does not sit in someone's beck or branch that they're served from. It gives a different set of eyes, and it often slows things down. So a lot of the time when I was a hearings rep, by the time I received the hearing, things had escalated quite a bit. And there sometimes was a lack of trust in between what was being told to them and really what they believed was fair, or what they should be eligible for, an individual should be eligible for. So it provided a slow down. And what I used to always tell claimants is that my fidelity was to the rules and the regulations. It didn't matter if I ruled against the department. It didn't matter if I ruled against the claimant. I wouldn't say that to them in that way. But really what a hearings rep's job is to do when a hearing is requested is to really hold the department accountable. They're looking at regulations, at rules to see, is the action and the allotment on this case appropriate? It's also due process, so it's a constitutional right. What is not a hearing request? So anytime that someone says, I want to talk to your manager, that does not establish a hearing request. So if you're talking with someone and they said that they requested a hearing, and they haven't heard from a hearings representative or anything, one of these things might have happened. There might have been different language used. We don't require people to say, anytime that someone says, I want this reviewed by a higher party, or I want to talk to a judge, or I want to request a hearing, those are all things that should move the next steps to the hearing request step. But if an individual is offered to speak to a lead or a supervisor, then that is a clear distinction or sign that a hearing has not actually been requested or established. Also, if someone says that they want to talk to GAO, just talking to GAO is not requesting a hearing. And we try, when we're working with Governor's Advocacy Office, if someone is really adamant that their allotment is incorrect, we often share and remind Governor's Advocacy Office, they're really good at sharing this information too, that if the person wants to establish a hearing or file a hearing, it's super important they do that, because hearing rights do have a time frame. We can send out these resources, but there is a specific form if an individual wants to just file a complaint or a discrimination form. And people do not have to choose. You can request a hearing and have the merits of your case reviewed in front of an administrative law judge and reviewed by a hearing representative at the same time that you're filing a civil rights allegation. But the individual would have to clearly establish both of those things. So establishing a SNAP hearing request. SNAP is a great program because all someone has to do is say, I want a hearing request. We are not one of the programs that require the form to be filled out, nor can we require someone to fill out the form. So if someone says, I want a hearing request, the staff member should then fill out the form, and we cannot require the person to sign that form or to fill it out. We do it on that person's behalf if they verbally asked for a hearing. It can be the individual, it can be their attorney, it can be their authorized representative. Those individuals can request a hearing. You can challenge an overpayment. You can challenge an eligibility decision like a denial or a closure. And something that's also unique to SNAP is that at any time through someone's certification period, they can challenge their SNAP allotment. So there doesn't have to be a notice. It doesn't expire. You can at all times, at all months, no matter what time you last received a notice, you can have a hearing request about your SNAP allotment. And also just to note, Misha, if you don't mind interrupting me if there are any questions, because I can only see the presentation, I can't see the chat as well.
No problem. There's no questions so far.
Okay. So people do have the right to establish a hearing through the Form 443. It's the hearing request form. So if someone does choose to fill it out and submit it, that also will establish a hearing request for the person. But again, people can just call us and share that they would like to have a hearing request, and we will fill out that form on their behalf. We also would consider it an established hearing request. Again, if the person filled out the form and forgot to or chose not to sign it, that's still someone requesting a hearing for the SNAP program. Some programs do require the signature, so just calling that out again. It's really important we get the identification information so we know who is requesting the hearing, especially we've got over 700,000 individuals receiving SNAP, we want to make sure that we can identify the person and know what case the hearing is being initiated on. We need to know what program. There are different, like I said, if the person didn't mark what program they want a hearing in, we might not know if the hearing request has been established, because if it's TANF, for right now under their guidelines, a signature is required and a form is required. And so it's really important that the individual let us know if they are filling out that form, what program they'd like a hearing request in. And I've got some snippets, some snapshots of different sections of the form. So there's also a place for people to list why they're disagreeing. That's not a requirement, but it sure does help the branch understand what's going on, as well as the hearings representative, to kind of get a jump on the situation.
There was a quick question.
Yes.
Is the hearing the same as the dispute?
So I would say if someone says, I want to dispute this decision verbally for SNAP, that would be a hearing request. But the technical word for it is a hearing request. We wouldn't call it a dispute. But you can use all of the that you could pull out a thesaurus and look up hearing or dispute. And if someone said, I blank this decision, we would go ahead and establish a hearing request for the SNAP program. Especially you've got a lot of people with different language backgrounds, language levels and understandings, different abilities. And so we want to make sure that if what someone is trying to communicate to us is they want somebody else to review this decision at a higher level, that we're honoring that and establishing that hearing request to honor their due process rights.
Follow-up question, how do we ensure that Oregonians know hearings are available?
That is a great question. I will do that before we get to the next slide. So on every single decision notice, the hearing rights are on the back. So there's a few places on different decision notices where it does talk about the right to request a hearing, as well as how to request a hearing.
Thank you.
Yeah. So this is a jumble of snapshots. So this is the centerpiece here, is the hearing request form. We are working on, we meaning not just me, because it's a multi-program form, but we've talked about actually taking this form to extend it out so it's easier to read. Thankfully for the SNAP program, we are one of few programs that allow a verbal hearing request. So a lot of our hearing requests that come in actually are not from an individual filling out this form. But this is the form, what it looks like currently. And I'm going to break down a couple of the different sections. And again, this form is not required for SNAP to establish a hearing request. So the first, and I will share that the term that we use when a hearing has been established is claimant. So I use the term claimant because that would be the individual, that would be their attorney, that would be their authorized representative. So anytime that we're talking about claimant, these aren't actions that only the individual receiving SNAP would have to take. This would be whoever is their representative for the case when I use that term claimant. So the details, the current contact information, the social security number or case number, so that we can make sure and identify the specific case that the hearing is requested for. If there was a notice that can help us understand what's going on, and what programs are involved. Down here, and we'll get into continuation of benefits a little bit later. So you can request what's called continuation of benefits, and it's down here, this question here. Do you want your benefits to stay the same while you wait for the hearing? So we're going to talk a little bit more about what that means and who qualifies for continuation of benefits and in what circumstances, but that is something that people can ask for when they're requesting a hearing. And then also expedited hearing eligibility. We're going to go into that a little bit more, but requesting an expedited hearing is also something people can do on the hearing request form. Moving forward. So claimant section, this is the claimant information section. You'll notice that we have an email address section. I will tell you, and we'll get in this as one of the hearing representative steps. Part of the hearing request process is an informal conference that is offered to you. So someone's hearing representative will reach out and try to gather more information, understand what their situation is and what evidence or testimony they might bring forward to the hearing. And so trying to have that informal conference is key. And so we offer a lot of different ways. We've got telephone number, message number, and email address, because we really want to understand that individual's situation and what's happening, because otherwise we're just making information and decisions and building a case based on what the department has provided to us. And if the situation is that someone's saying they emailed a pay stub to a branch 5 times and we never, reduce their income so their SNAP could go up, we're obviously not going to find those 5 emails in the case notes because the department didn't take the action. And so it's really important to get that other perspective. It is not a replacement for the hearing. So that's one thing that's very, very important. The hearings representatives make clear that they are not the administrative law judge, but their job is to review the case before we do refer it for a judicial decision at Office of Administrative Hearings, because sometimes what we find is that the department made a mistake, and at times we can actually increase the benefits or reopen the case without the person actually having to prepare themselves to go to a hearing in front of an administrative law judge or ALJ. So we really try to get that informal conference in place so that we can evaluate the case and possibly prevent that additional step. One thing to call out that I've stated here, translators are free and they're available at no cost for the informal conference as well as at the hearing. That's a requirement. And then also, there is a question here for reasonable accommodation to participate. So I will share with you that I'm trying to think of when I started as a hearings representative, maybe 2011. So since at least 2011, the hearings requests are by phone. And so the administrative law judge does the whole process by phone, including asking people to raise their right hand and swear when they're giving testimony. So it's all on the phone. However, there are a lot of individuals that usually based on hearing needs might need an in-person hearing. So they can request that. ODHS cannot approve that. It's the Office of Administrative Hearings that has to approve that. So if an individual does need an accommodation, they can ask, and then Office of Administrative Hearings will make the decision. We've got a section down here for a name of lawyer or representative. This is really important because, as probably many of you know, if the individual is represented from this matter, we should not be contacting the individual directly. We should actually be contacting their attorney. Sometimes we will see people writing down their attorney name because they're in the middle of a divorce. But if that is not the individual that is representing them for that matter, we will just continue to engage directly with the claimant and not their attorney. The hearing issue section. So this is where we're gathering more information so that the hearings representative and the lead worker or manager, if they review the hearing request before sending it forward, where they gather a little bit more information. They look and see if there was a date of notice. So if the individual received a notice, that's something that is really helpful to provide. They can mark boxes or write in their own reason of what they're asking a hearing about. And then also mark the program or programs that they want a hearing in. And then down here, briefly explain why you disagree. So those are all sections that really help with the initial evaluation and understanding of the situation. For expedited and continuation of benefits, so an expedited hearing can be requested and it also will be reviewed. So if someone has a right to an expedited hearing, we're going to go ahead and review that to make sure that it is offered, even if the person didn't mark that box, because there are certain circumstances that people qualify for an expedited hearing. And I'll go into what that means in a moment. Continuation of benefits. So while someone is awaiting the final order, like I said before, some individuals and circumstances can qualify for their benefits to continue. One important thing to note that I'm going to repeat when we get to continuation of benefits is requesting continuation of benefits may result in an overpayment. So that's a really important thing for people to understand if they do request for their benefits to continue. Okay, so after a hearing has been requested, during the same or next day that the hearing is established, usually a manager or lead is going to gather the information, look at the case notes, look at the notice, and sometimes even at that first initial step, they can realize that, oh, we reduced someone's benefits, but we didn't send them a notice at all. And since that's not allowed, we will go back, re-increase the person's benefits, make sure an appropriate notice goes out, and then fix the situation. And so there's usually that first check that happens to see if there was a notice sent, if the notice details were correct, if we sent it to the right address, and then also if what we did was appropriate based on rule or policy. The leader manager will also be checking if it is an expedited hearing. Again, we'll go in that in a moment. And then also if continuation of benefits was requested. If expedited was requested or continuation of benefits was requested, then the claimant will receive a notice letting them know if they were approved or denied for that expedited hearing or for continuation of benefits. And after that review, it's sent to the hearings team and assigned to a hearings representative. For expedited, so again, we have to screen for expedited eligibility, expedited hearing eligibility, I should say. And what that means is that the hearing is held within 5 working days. Some people like that, especially if they have a really serious situation. And then others don't want that because they won't feel prepared by the 5th day. So it's a right and not a requirement, but it is something that we schedule unless the person tells us otherwise. An individual has a right to an expedited SNAP hearing if they request continuation of benefits and we deny them, if they request expedited SNAP or DSNAP, disaster SNAP, and we deny them, and then if we take any action that impacts the individual's ability to participate in SNAP expedite. Hearing no questions, moving along. Continuation of benefits. So continuation of benefits is again when an individual can receive the same level of SNAP. So let's say that I had an ongoing case and then got a notice that my case was going to close or reduce. So I can request, or I can always request continuation of benefits, but it's restricted by 2 things. So one is when continuation of benefits is requested. So it has to be requested by the later of 2 days, either the 10th day following the date of the notice or the effective date of the action in the notice. So if I received a notice today, the 10th day following the date of the notice would be early November. But if my notice said my benefits were going to close effective November 30th, as long as I requested the hearing on or before November 30th, I would be fine because that is the later of those 2 dates. In addition, there's situational requirements. So you can only request continuation of benefits within the certification period. So if someone is recertifying and reapplying for benefits and we deny them, that is not happening in the middle of their certification period. And so we cannot continue benefits. We can only continue benefits within a set and approved certification period. Also, continuing benefits can change due to other changes that happen after the hearing request. So if I reported a job and my SNAP went down and I requested a hearing and for my benefits to continue, but then a month later while I was waiting for my hearing to happen, 2 of my kids moved out of the house and then my SNAP benefits went down again, I would have to request a hearing again and request continuation benefits again. Part of that is because of the overpayment component. So I said earlier that continuation of benefits can result in a client-caused overpayment. So if when we have that hearing, the judge rules that my benefits actually should have reduced, but I continue to get a higher amount based on the continuation of benefits, that would be an overpayment against me. And the difference of what I was eligible for and what I received through continuation of benefits would be in that overpayment calculation. I will say that the continuation of benefits approval notice does make it clear that if they are not eligible and they do not win their hearing, that the benefits will be referred for an overpayment. How are we at for time, Misha?
We are about 2 minutes into the community partner feedback time.
Okay.
So if we're
I
able to
will
tie it up, that would be
wrap
great.
this up. Yep.
Thank you.
So just want to make sure that everybody know hearing representatives are lay representatives. They're not attorneys. And so that's something if someone's talking to you about hearing requests, they're not working with an attorney. So that can help them not feel so intimidated. And the hearing representative will also evaluate the case. So they're going to dig deep into rules, regulations, statutes, because they have to represent the case in front of a judge. And they're going to want to make sure that those regulations and rules, as well as the evidence on the case, clearly support the department's position. And if they don't, they will overturn it at that step and not defend the department's decision. So after the hearing representative does their evaluation and sends the case forward to the Office of Administrative Hearings, the hearing representative represents the department's case and the claimant represents their case. And it's very similar to court, but it's really important that individuals know it's not court. It's the Office of Administrative Hearings and their administrative law judges. And the judge, after they receive the testimony of each party and any of the evidence that are admitted into the case record, the judge takes some time to evaluate all of those and then sends a final order to each party. So the department gets a final order and the claimant gets a final order. In each final order, especially if you have someone who's really unhappy with a final order that they receive, at the bottom of the final order, there are rehearing and appeal rights for that specific hearing. Based on programs and based on different types of hearings, there are going to be different appeal rights and rehearing rights. So it's really important if someone's unhappy with a final order that you take them to that last page so they can see how they can escalate it to a higher authority, even beyond that administrative law judge. And I think that is all. So I will admit questions. If anyone wants to provide questions in the chat, I will make sure to answer, but my apologies for cutting into our partner time, and I will stop sharing.
Thanks, Mayora. And will you have a copy of this presentation I can get out to partners as well?
Thank you.
All right. So the last 5 minutes are really for you to provide any feedback or ask questions. I know that it sounds like Susan had something exciting she wanted to share. So I wanted to open it up to Susan first. Susan, what would you like to share with us?
Well, I got a call from a student the other day and she needed Goodwill vouchers. So we got that going. And she said, I wanted to thank you for the advice you gave me over the summer. And I'm like, I talked to a few students. What advice did I give you? She said, you told me to use the SNAP EBT for Double Up food bucks, which I did. And that saved me a lot of money. And also you told me about the free farmers markets that are available in Medford. There's one, and this is from Rogue Food Unites. So you can take your bag and go 3 different locations, 3 different nights a week. 2 hours each location. So she said I did that. And I went as often as I could. And I lost 50 pounds over the summer. And I just saw my doctor, and my doctor was like, "What did you do?" And she said, I ate vegetables instead of just getting the rice and beans and all the carbs. I really went heavy on the vegetables. And the doctor had not heard of Double Up Food Bucks or the local free farmers markets in the area. And now the doctor is going to be telling all of their patients about this. So the student was excited to get Goodwill vouchers from me because she's grown out of all of her clothes. Everything that she has is too big. So that was a huge success. I thought that was really cool. And I wanted to share that with everybody because it's based in SNAP.
Thank you, Susan. That is
You're welcome.
awesome. Catherine was asking about the free food resource in Medford. If you have any information you can share in chat, that would be great.
I'll put a link to our webpage, our RCC food webpage in chat, and
Okay.
and you can look at that. It's not the very top. At the very top, we have the Aussies Cupboard, which is our campus food pantries. But then scroll down a little ways, and you'll see Rogue Food Unites. So let me get that.
Thank you. Rogue Food Unites does some pretty wonderful work. I know we partner with them with our Office of Resiliency and Emergency Management. They're an integral partner, so it's awesome. Well, any other great, wonderful stories or feedback you'd like to provide, or if you have a question or a question about the hearings that Mayora went over, this is your time. All right. I'm not seeing any hands or hearing anybody. So I did want to let you know I've looked ahead a little bit at the schedule. It looks like our next meeting is scheduled for the holiday, and I'm sure you'll be wanting to enjoy the holiday and not come to a Zoom meeting, as interesting and exciting as they are. So we won't be having our SNAP partner meeting for November. Looking at December's, it falls the day after the holiday, and many people may be out for that as well. So we are looking at the possibility of rescheduling for December so that we can still have a meeting rather than missing 2 meetings in a row. And I will get that information out to you as soon as we get that finalized. But if we do reschedule, we will retain a Thursday at 2 o'clock time, just because that's kind of our pattern, and hopefully it will be easier for you to attend for that rescheduling piece. I will also be sending out updated 2025 meeting invites for the SNAP partner meeting here, probably in the next month or so. So you can be looking for those as well. So hopefully it's not too confusing with canceling some meetings and sending the new ones. I'll try to do it on separate days so it doesn't get too confusing, but just go ahead and accept those as they come through so that your calendar reflects appropriately. But we are so glad to have you all here and to be working with you. And if you have any feedback that you didn't have a chance to share that you'd like to share, I will stay on, and you're welcome to share with me. And we will take note of that and follow up as appropriate. But thank you so much for being here, and we will see you again. And I will let you know when that will be as soon as we get that finalized. So sometime in December. Thank you. Have a good day, everybody.
Misha,